So here you are. I have to admit, you are good.
Ho ho ho, Merry Thickmas, every pony. I hope you're doing well. For me, I love the holiday season, easily my favorite time of the year. I always get so nostalgic, and I always get such a warm feeling around this time of year. And this year, I want to look at a nostalgic console, a console that a lot of people had back in the day, and well, it's celebrating its 15th anniversary this year. So let's look under the tree, unwrap our present, and see what we got. I mean, you already know, but hey, it's Christmas. Let's unwrap some presents. Why, we got a Nintendo Wii. Man, I had one of these back in the day. 15 years ago, this thing released, and well, time sure does fly. So if you weren't there back in the day, or if you don't remember it, let me learn you some nostalgia here with how big the Wii was back in 2006. The Nintendo Wii was released in North America on November 19th, 2006. I remember all too well, prior to the thing's release, my friends at school were talking about it all the time. Unlike the PlayStation 3 or the 360, which went for higher graphics, Nintendo went for a different style of gaming with the motion controls, aka the Wiimote. It was so much different from what we've seen before in gaming at the time, but as a Nintendo fan, I was interested and had to be in there. Unfortunately, the Wii was hard to find when it released. Unless you pre-ordered the thing, the Wii was like finding a halo in a haystack, aka being really hard to find. Of course, scalping was an issue back then too. I remember one woman actually dying in a Hold Your Wii for a Wii contest where she held her piston for so long that she died. What a way to go out. My parents searched high and low for one, but alas, we got nothing. I had a pretty bad time in middle school. I didn't feel good about myself, and I had a hard time talking to people or making friends, and in general was an awkward kid, as most kids are at that age. The one thing I was looking forward to during that time was the Nintendo Wii, and not getting one was a serious heartbreaker for me. But one day, I returned home from school, and under the Christmas tree, I found a shiny new Wii. My dad got lucky at a GameStop and had to wait 4 hours to get one, but hey, he did it for me. I mean, I take it for granted now, but back in the day, I was really excited to get this thing so early before Christmas, and man, I played the hell out of this thing back in the day. So what was cool about the Wii? Well, it had a lot more going on than the DS or GameCube that I was accustomed to. There was the Me channel, and it was always fun making Miis. There was the news and weather channels that were always fun to play around with, and the Virtual Console was extremely lit. I was familiar with the Genesis, but I didn't have much retro Nintendo experience growing up. Being able to buy retro Nintendo games for a good price was really cool. You also got games for the Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, Neo Geo, and arcade titles being available on the Wii Shop channel. I remember getting King of Fighters 95 and absolutely loving it. Still one of my favorites in the King of Fighters series. Eventually you got WiiWare titles with unique downloadable games for the system. Sadly, the Wii Shop channel is long gone, and those games are long gone with time. Sadly, the same thing is going to happen with the 3DS and the Wii U Virtual Consoles. And of course, you had the system seller itself, the Wiimote. I'd seen motion controls in arcade games before, but nothing like this for a home console at the time. The promos looked so cool, the possibilities were endless. While some games used the Wiimote well, others not so much. The Wii became infamous for many perfectly fine titles being ruined with unnecessary motion controls, but ultimately I think someone had to be the first to use motion controls for a home console, and Nintendo hit it out of the park. So much so that Sony and Microsoft had to copy Nintendo's idea with the Move and the Kinect, and both freaking sucked. There were over 1,000 titles released for the Wii, and not all of them were home run hitters. In fact, the Wii is notorious for being a shovelware machine. I would argue there are more crap games for the thing than there are good. Just as much, there were plenty of fine games held back by poor motion controls. That said, the Wii has some amazing titles. Some of my favorites include the psychotic Mad World, the equally bizarre and messed up No More Heroes, the epic Xenoblade Chronicles, the absolutely breathtaking Muramasa, the superb Super Mario Galaxy, the brawling goodness of Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, and the brutal Sin and Punishment. So there's my quick overview of the Nintendo Wii, and while some people are really polarized on the thing these days because of the motion controls, because of its weaker graphical prowess compared to the Xbox 360 and the PS3, people seem to really like the thing as it sold how many units? And well,
the numbers don't lie!
Anyway, it's the 15th anniversary of the Wii, so now I'm going to look at some of the games I had at launch. I don't have every launch game, and I wouldn't want to go over every launch game, but I do have 4 games here that I want to talk about, starting with the game that we all had with our Wii.
You can see right here, I'm getting ready to serve. All I do is throw that ball up in the air, and when oh, jeez.
First up, it's Wii Sports. This was the pack-in title, and what a pack-in. To put it simply, Wii Sports was made to showcase what could be done with the Wiimote. Commercials wanted you to play Wii Sports like this. In reality, you're playing like this. 5 games are included in this package, including tennis, baseball, golf, bowling, and boxing, the last needing the nunchuck. I haven't played this title in years, but it's remarkable how playable this game is in 2021. Personally, I spent the most time with tennis as it's the simplest, plus it takes the least amount of time to play. Golf is another personal favorite. I'm not a fan of golf as a sport, but I like golf games well enough, and Wii Sports is a great golf game. Bowling is also a ton of fun, especially when you do this. Never try that in real life, that's why I'm banned from the Albuquerque Bowling League. Baseball I could do without. It's not the worst thing in the world, it's just kind of boring and takes too long.
We drove 2,000 miles for this.
Boxing is also a ton of fun if you really get into it. Overall, Wii Sports is still a fun title, and I can't think of a better way to introduce people to the Wiimotes. There was a sequel to Wii Sports on the Wii U, but good luck finding it. Yeah, color me impressed. I'm really surprised at how well Wii Sports plays in 2021, and it was still really fun to play. It was actually hard for me to put this game down because it is so pick up and play, and it really is a game that anyone can get into. But you didn't buy the Wii just for Wii Sports, did you? No. Here's the game that everybody, and I do mean everybody, wanted for the Nintendo Wii. Twilight Princess was the game everybody wanted for their Wii. Yeah, it was on the GameCube too, but why would you get the GameCube version when you have the Wii? The game was a huge step up in graphics and intensity from Ocarina of Time or Wind Waker. I was super hyped for it, I got it on Christmas, I played it, I cleared it, and was a bit let down at the time. Why was that, and have my opinions changed? Let's take a quick look. You, as Link, come from a sleepy town where a tragedy strikes and Link finds himself thrown into a new realm, transformed into a wolf. He is accompanied by this being called Midna, and if you jacked it to Imp Midna, you either have been to jail or will go to jail. Midna joins Link and reveals that the Twilight Realm and Hyrule are in danger, and it's up to Link to conquer his inner fury and save both realms with the help of Midna. This is my first time playing Twilight Princess in years, and yeah, I forgot how slow this game's intro is. It took me like, what, over an hour and a half to get to the first dungeon, and I forgot how annoying those little shits were in the village. And I'm pretty sure Ilya takes Epona to the spring to do cocaine off its penis. I think the reason why I was so let down with Twilight Princess after the hype died off was that it felt like I played Ocarina of Time again, but with yiffing and motion controls. The game structure is the same as Ocarina's and Wind Waker's, where you go through 3 temples to get the Master Sword, then the world opens up a bit before you take out the main villain. And as big as this game is, it felt like it took a few steps back from Ocarina of Time. The world is big, but there isn't a whole lot to do. You get a ton of weapons, but hardly of them get any mileage outside of their respective dungeons. And finally, the difficulty took a sharp nosedive compared to Ocarina. Outside of a few tricky puzzles here and there, Twilight Princess is a pushover, but I trained by playing Ocarina of Time a few weeks beforehand, so maybe I was just ready for this game. That said, I do think time has been kind to Twilight Princess. It's a very focused game and is well paced. There are a lot of fun and creative dungeons here, and the motion controls, while definitely shoehorned in, never got in the way of the fun, unlike Skyward Sword, and spoiler alert, that game fucking sucks. But Twilight Princess doesn't suck. It has a lot of lore and story to it that I didn't get from any previous titles. It is a pretty emotional journey at times, and some of those scenes do stick with you. I'm not sure if it's my favorite Zelda game. I wouldn't mind sitting down and clearing it again. I'm not sure what the consensus is on this title these days, but I will say this game is really solid and worth a play. I think time has really validated Twilight Princess because back in the day, people were pretty mixed on it because it really did feel like Ocarina of Time with a new coat of paint on it. But I think people are more open to it these days because it is so solid and it is such a dark and unique game in the Zelda formula. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, like I said in the main review, but I will say that I would like to go back and clear it one more time just for nostalgia's sake. Unfortunately for Zelda though, it is a single player game, so we gotta get some multiplayer action here, and I got just the game for that. I freaking love the Super Monkey Ball duology on the GameCube, and the one in the Game Boy Advance was pretty fun too. those games had perfect control, and they had a lot of fun level designs, so I was definitely in there for Banana Blitz on the Wii. This title had a different look from the previous games, which was okay, but the gameplay is a totally different beast. This game is entirely controlled by the Wiimote, which made sense to get the most out of the Wiimote, and the main campaign isn't so bad. After a bit of practice, I did get back into the swing of Banana Blitz. The stages can be fun, and to make things easier, a lot of stages have rails, and now there's a jump button to mix things up. So Sega did as much as they could to make things less frustrating. There are also boss battles because that's what Monkey Ball was really missing. Man, do you really have to do that out in public? While the main campaign can be fun, you're not really there for the main campaign, are you? You're there for the minigames. My copies of Monkey Ball 1 and 2 were basically Monkey Target and Monkey Golf. Sega knows that people like the minigames, and they might have overdone it in this title, as there are 50 minigames in Banana Blitz, and hardly any of them are good. The sports games are done better in Wii Sports, a game that came with your Wii, and the other titles aren't interesting or engaging, and the ones you think would be sick like Darts suck monkey turds. They got so desperate for minigames, there's a jigsaw puzzle. Guess what, guys? You can do jigsaw puzzles in real life with your friends and family for way more fun. And this game, it's a sheep herding game. It's fucking sheep. You don't even play as the goddamn monkey, you play as a stupid dog. And the motion controls suck. This is the second Wii launch title that has a sheep herding minigame in it, and this one is not good. Jesus Christ, I am done with this bullshit. And of course, Sega, of all the games that they could have brought back for modern systems like, say, Mad World or Sakura Wars Song Along My Love, they had to bring back Banana Blitz, a game that people didn't care for back in the day, and people still don't care for now. At the very least, they brought back this Super Monkey Ball, and this game is actually pretty solid. So, that just leaves one game left for my Wii retrospective, and well, it's a game I guarantee you no one has thought about since launch. I'm probably the first person to talk about this title in 5 years. Red Steel was what you imagined with the Wiimote and Nunchuck, shooting dudes and cutting them up with a katana. This game seemed super badass, and it was, in a very mid-2000s average action movie kind of way, preferably starring Steven Seagal culturally appropriating Japan. You play as white boy Scott Monroe, a man with the incurable disease known as yellow fever. He's about to marry the love of his life, Miyu Sato.
Asian girl, you're my Asian girl, you're my Asian girl, she's my Asian girl.
Right before meeting her dad, she gets captured, and now Scott gets to live out the fantasies of most American police by going to Japan to shoot a bunch of non-white people who inexplicably speak English to absolutely no consequence to get his girl back. If the creative team wanted to tell me they've never been to Japan without actually saying they've never been to Japan, they did a flying job of that. In all of my years of living in this country, I have not seen a single gunfight, or a gun for that matter. And this is coming from a person who voluntarily gets ass wasted in places like Kabukicho and Roppongi. The plot is absolutely stupid, and it plays everything straight without the slightest hint of irony. But let's be real, you aren't here for the plot. You're here to use the Wiimote and Nunchuck like a sword and a gun, so does it feel cool? It did back in 2006 at least. When the game is at its basic of just shooting dudes, it's fine. I did have a few issues with aiming, but that might be due to my Wiimote or sensor bar. You do turn around a bit too slow, and it could be hard to orient yourself, but shooting wasn't that much of an issue. With that said, some areas are annoying and have goons that can easily cheap shot you until you learn the levels. Thankfully, there is no punishment for death, and the power of yellow fever allows Scott to heal from bullet wounds if he doesn't get hit for a few seconds. The other major part of gameplay is the swordplay, and holy crap, this was hard. It's been a hot minute since I've played Red Steel, and I do not remember this game being so unresponsive. Over-exaggerating my motions didn't work, or if they did, I didn't get the command I wanted, and sometimes parrying with the nunchuck just didn't work or was delayed. This was an issue with a lot of motion-controlled games. There was either a slight delay or the game didn't read your inputs correctly. This made some boss fights just way too annoying to fight against. Like this whore who I fought like 10 times because Scott really wanted to get his dick cut off. Seriously, fuck this bitch. You could tell whenever I struggled against a boss battle because I just kill him out of pure frustration.
Knock the fuck out!
To Red Steel's defense, this was new territory on the new hardware. Someone had to try this style of gaming because it was going to happen at some point. Overall, the gameplay balances out to working, but the main draw for me was the environments.
After wiping out a room full of people, I would just walk around and admire this gritty interpretation of Tokyo. This stage where you're fighting in the red light district always stood out to me. I mean, yeah, they call them geishas in the game, but it's a fucking red light district, just call it what it is. Even the business level has a really cool look to it. I've always wanted to visit Japan as a kid, and I would devour anything that had to do with the country. For me, this was the closest thing to going to Japan as possible. Now I'm an adult sitting in my Tokyo apartment playing games from my youth for a desperate hit of copium. Red Steel in the grand scheme of things isn't anything special. The plot takes itself far too seriously without any kind of irony or self-awareness, and the gameplay did showcase what the Wiimote was capable of, but being shoveled out for the Wii's launch meant that it wasn't refined like later Wii titles. It was an interesting tech demo, but later Wii games did swordplay and gunplay better, including its sequel, and if you want to experience Japan in game form, there are plenty of games with better plots, level design, and gameplay. Again, to Red Steel's defense, motion controls had to start somewhere, and at the end of the day, this game is playable if nothing else. With all of that said, unless you had this game as a kid or find it for dirt cheap, just save your cash for beer money. Still, as a cheap hit of nostalgia, Red Steel did its job. Cue the music!
So there's my nostalgic look at the Nintendo Wii, and man, it's been a while since I've played any of these games, and man, playing them again after so long, it really was just like a hit of 2006, just punched me right in the face, and that's not really a bad thing in my opinion. I know some people are polarized on the Wii these days, but for me, it's an important system, and for a lot of other people out there, I know it's an important system to them too, with a lot of great games and a lot of good memories too. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. So if you had a Wii back in the day, let me know down there in the comments and let me know what is your favorite Wii game. For me, I'd probably say Muramasa might be my favorite, but let me know down there in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. Give yourself some more Christmas gifts by following me on the social media like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at ZMings. Merry Christmas everybody, and I'll see you around. Later everybody, take care.